Okay, we're live. Three, two, one. Dylan, good to see you, man.
Leon, good to see you.
So I'm very excited for this conversation because we've been working together for about 6 months. And as I've been saying many times, you have had one of the fastest transformations in the 6+ years that we have been running the program. And I've seen you evolve mentally and physically, your behavior, your knowledge very, very fast. So I'm very exciting to really jump on a call with a truly self-master founder and really walk into your experience and your transformation. So start with the beginning. Why did you first join, and who were you back then?
So when I first met Leon, I was in Asia. I had been, I was basically at a crossroads, right? I had been a musician for 10 years. I had absolutely no business experience. Um, I was basically at a crossroads where I was like, what am I going to do? Um, this music thing hasn't been working out. I've been trying anything, like I've been trying modeling, I've been trying like catching gigs here and there. I've been, and I have absolutely no real experience outside of, I came from a farm, right? So I was a cheesemaker for about 11 years as well. So I wasn't even really exposed to people in a sense. I was very I was very introverted, anxious, unable to talk to people, hold a conversation. And when I met Leon, that's who I was, right? I was the anxious person, just kind of like trying to figure out what I'm going to do now, right? So I chose to embark on on this business journey, right? I have an agency. We do advertising for B2B companies. And, this call is occurring at the perfect time because an hour before this call, we actually signed a contract for that's worth 18K. So this
Congratulations,
call,
man.
yeah, thank you. So it's kind of like a perfect time to talk about how I got here, right? Because when I started, I had absolutely no self-control. I had absolutely no self confidence. I was basically throwing myself into a world that I knew absolutely nothing about. And that's when I found Self-Mastered. And since then, the 7 months that I've been with Self-Mastered, I've completely changed from an insecure, incapable in the sense of not being able to execute and do the things that I want to do, that I know that I should do, but I can't because I can't get myself to do it because of the resistance and because of the thoughts in my head and um, you know, the emotional pull towards scrolling or putting it off, et cetera, et cetera. From that into, signing contracts with companies over the call, over the phone, right, face to face. So I actually like put together some statistics or data over the past 7 months. So
I'd
since
love
I've
that.
been, yeah,
Yeah.
since I've been with the Self-Mastered team, I have completed 230 consecutive days of meditation. And
Wow.
that's at least 10 minutes per day. Now, when I first started Self-Mastered, I remember the first day that I tried doing meditation, and I was so like irritated. I was like every little sound or thought, like I got upset. I was just completely emotionally all over the place, right? I just couldn't control myself. Um, and now I've done over 100 hours of meditation. And I do 22 minutes a day at least. And sometimes I do two sessions of 22 minutes. So 22 minutes in the morning and 22 minutes in the evening. And on top of that, I have at my peak of ring fencing, the ring fence sessions, I was hitting consistently 4 to 5 ring fence sessions a day. And at my highest, it was 6 ring fence sessions. So I hit a few days of 6. And at this point,
Ring fence
because
session for anyone who is not familiar, ring fence session is a 90-minute work session with a very specific set of triggers and protocols that help you with deep work and eventually flow states. So 6 90 minutes work session is literally 6 times more deep work than the average knowledge worker. As a segue, if you had to quantify your productivity in terms of how much it has climbed, what would the multiple be?
well, I can give you an example of when I first started, like one task that we do for outreach
Mhm.
is we create a deliverable for who we reach out to. And when I started that deliverable, making that deliverable, I was able to make only like 1 or 2 per ring fence session. And then after only 5 ring fence sessions, I was able to 5x my output. So
In
that's
one
just an
week?
example. Yes. Yeah, because
Wow.
that's like one day of using the
Mhm.
first ring fence session of the day, and then the
Mhm.
second day and the third day and so on. Within 5 ring fence sessions, I was able to 5x that. And that's just one example of like a specific thing that I did that I was able to um, actively see myself improving extremely quickly. And then overall, I pulled up my old dashboard. When I first started Self-Mastered, I was averaging at about 39% execution.
Mhm.
And now easily we're doing anywhere between 80 and 85% execution every single week. Even if it's a bad week, I'm still putting in the ring fence sessions. I'm still doing the highest leverage task, right?
Good.
Um, and honestly, at this point, it's not even the amount of ring fence sessions because it used to be trying to do as many as possible. But Leon taught me about leverage, right? And now I've been able to systematize a lot of my business where I've actually been able to hire and delegate a lot of the tasks that I was doing within ring fence sessions. So I'm actually getting more done with less work and being able to like take sales calls and et cetera, rather than working all day, if that makes sense.
Very, very exciting. Well, first of all, congratulations. I didn't know about the 18K a month contract. That's massive, dude. Congratulations.
Thank
Very, very
you.
big. Awesome,
I couldn't
dude.
have done it without self-mastered, honestly, because I can't, if we were to go back 7 months to my old self and told him that I was able to do that, when I started this journey, obviously I wanted that, but I didn't really truly believe it, right? Because my brain has had been wired around fear and around um, doubt, self doubt. And with the self mastered protocols, with the program, and also with the mentorship, right? Having those weekly calls, having the Slack channel, having access to Leon and the self mastered team, where I'm actually able to ask you guys questions or show you my weekly reviews. Um, Basically, just the ability to have you tell me exactly what I need to fix, you know, it's caused me to grow exponentially.
I love that. I mean, you were like, in the good sense of the word, you were an amateur in business, right? What
Absolutely. Yeah.
what's really commendable is that most people spend their whole lives in amateur mode, and they
Yes.
have to swim through mud just to get a little bit of results. But you decided that you needed a full transformation. You were a cheesemaker with a music background, and you decided,
Hmm.
I want to be the best businessman I can be, and I want to speed run the transformation. And I need a program that helps me do that from the inside out. Because what you've gone through in 7 months really is years worth of progress in terms of the skills, the beliefs, and the behaviors that you have acquired in rapid form with everything that we have trained you in. And that is very, very commendable because now you're a founder athlete. you literally are an elite founder who is consistently getting better. Because on top of you being very consistent with what we call the core protocols, which is meditation, which is mental reprogramming, which is ring fencing, you've also embraced the dashboard way of life, tracking your performance, segmenting every single ounce of effort through leverage. Walk me through how the dashboard helps you get better every single week and how specifically you've changed your ways at work and outside of work.
So basically, I am completely addicted and reliant on the dashboard in a good way, where I can't do anything without ring fence session, like without ring fencing it, um, because I understand at a core level how important that feedback loop is, right? So if I were to work outside of a ring fence session, if I were to stop using the dashboard, I would feel so like naked, right? I don't know how well I did. I don't know how long this took, right? Because when you're trying to get into deep work, right, you're not paying attention to the time. And that's the great thing about the ring fence session because it forces you to get something done within a specific period of time. If you didn't have those parameters, you could probably take 3 times as long, on average to get something done because you didn't actually give your brain any specific time frame, right?
Yeah.
So if I have one task that I need to do and I don't ring fence session, if I don't ring fence it, you know, I'm going to get that task done. It's going to take way longer for me to get that done. And on top of that, there's no positive feedback loop, right? So if I actually achieve something earlier this day, like let's be honest with ourselves. This is true for me, and I'm pretty sure it's true for everyone else who's listening. If you achieve something, even if it's like, oh, I was able to, usually it takes me an hour to get 3 tasks done. But this morning, I was able to get 6 tasks done within the same hour, right? If you don't log that, if you don't somehow remind yourself of all those little wins, you're going to lose track of them and you're going to completely forget, even by the end of the day, right? And that's one of the great things about the dashboard is you're not only logging in things in real time, you're also doing the end of day report. You're also doing the end of week report. And what that does is it allows you to look at the end of every single day and the end of every single week. And then you have the quarterly roadmap, right? So you're tracking absolutely everything. So within a day, you are getting positive feedback loops on everything that you were able to achieve. Within a week, you're able to compare that week to the week previous to that week. So you can see how exactly every single instance of you progressing, and you can see where you might have improvement, like you can improve. So you can set for the next week exactly what you need to do, right? So if I failed to do something, then I know exactly what that is. So I don't keep doing it every single week. And that's exactly what I used to do, right? Before the dashboard, I would have all these behaviors and habits that every now and then I would become conscious of them. But I never had the tools to actually fix them because I wasn't always conscious of it because most of it's unconscious, right? So
Of course.
if you don't have a tool where you can log everything, if you don't have the data, like you're basically cooked because you don't have the ability to remind your brain. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned through Self-Mastered is how important it is to rewire your brain over and over again through repetition. And that's really what the dashboard does. It doesn't just log things, it also allows you to recode those new behaviors mentally, through the recoding sessions, and also physically by planning your week, right? With like if you're like I've never been able to plan my week in the way that the dashboard as well as the other tools like the weekly sprint, et cetera, like And that all comes from the top down, right? So if you don't plan your quarter, you can't plan your weeks. If you don't plan your weeks, you can't plan your days. And that's basically on the execution and strategic side. That's what self-mastered is built around. And then within the day, if you don't have the momentary tools like ring fencing, recovery sessions, recoding sessions, if you get an emotional resistance, you have those tools to go to so that you can physically calm yourself down, mentally recode something, reframe something in your mind, and then get back to work.
Dude, I love it because you really have internalized the whole methodology, and you now see yourself as an athlete, use the right tool at the right moment to get the right results, and you are on a consistently upwards motion. And there's really
So
no, yeah,
just to
go.
give you like a little bit more concrete, like when you said how much have you improved your execution? Like for example, when I first started Self-Mastered, I was doing like maybe like before I started Self-Mastered, right? I was doing like maybe 30 minutes of work here and there, never like a full hour, and the focus was completely screwed, right? I would just be switching tabs. I'd be watching YouTube in between trying to get something done, just completely all over the place to where at the end of the day, I didn't really get anything done. Or the thing that I got done, now I get done within one ring fence session. So, and even when I was starting Self-Mastered, when I'm looking through my old dashboards, my old weeks, it was taking me so long to get things done. But I had the dashboard to see that, right? And then through mentorship, like working with Leon on what I needed to change each week, and then also being able to log everything in the dashboard and recode it, I was able to quickly go from like 39% execution to 50, then 60, then 70, and now 80 to 90 pretty consistently. Even if I have something come up where, it's completely out of the blue, as you deal with business, it's all of the tools are there to deal with it. And self-mastered covers physical, mental, spiritual, um, execution, and strategic. So you have everything. You have tools for every single aspect of how you deal with each situation, um, in what you're trying to achieve, whether it's in business or outside of business. Like, for example, if I'm not working, but I'm in a situation like a relationship situation where it's emotional, I still use the exact tools that I use for business from self-mastered. They're all from self-mastered, right? So you see yourself using it constantly, even outside of the business.
I love that. I didn't know that. I mean, we're teaching you cognitive skills, right? You're going to carry them over forever in your life. And we're training you in skills that most people have never heard of. Like, for instance, metacognition, that to us is a spiritual skill, which is the ability to see your mental patterns in real time, reframe the meaning with specific tools so that over time you become your own maker by choosing what you pay attention to and conscientiously reframing the things that are not based on truth that are actively damaging you, negative belief, limiting beliefs, negative thoughts. By switching them and reframing them over time, your brain lets them go. And you literally rewire your brain for a higher level of functioning. So I want to get deep into that because I honestly think you've done a fantastic job. Meditation has been very consistent, which is the core of metacognition, but you're also being very active with the recording protocols, with reframing. So to me, is really inspiring to see a student going from zero business experience to signing a $10K months contract. Sorry, that isn't just a business outcome. That is a full reinvention that hinges on a specific set of skills that you have learned through the tools that we've given you. Walk me through that journey. How do you see it from within? How do you see yourself through that evolution thanks to these skills?
Yeah, so it's a completely different it's an identity shift, honestly. And you need to be able to completely change how you see yourself. And that is something that is taught. One of the first things that you learn in Self-Mastered is how to master yourself spiritually and mentally, even before we talk about, strategic execution, business stuff. You have to master yourself, and you have to have the ability to um, rewire yourself. And that's really a skill that you can't really, in my opinion, you can't achieve without the proper tools. Like you said, like with metacognition, we aren't taught about any of this. And even if you understand, like when I joined Self Mastered, like I I had delved in, you know, like woo stuff, like manifestation. I delved in, affirmations, even just like the typical like grind set mindset where you're just like grinding and pushing yourself to do something. But what Self Master does is it teaches you how to rewire your brain so that you're no longer so that you can expand your capacity, right? So with each thing, like for me, my journey, when I started, like my capacity was so small that it was overwhelming for me to get on a mentorship call, right? I had to muster confidence in myself. It was hard for me because I wasn't used to it. But by using the tools in Self Mastered and the protocols, I was able to expand that and deal with the um, uncomfortability, right, in the right way, where I'm actually expanding my ability to deal with things and expanding my exposure to where now I'm able to get on sales calls and close deals, right? There's a huge gap between where I started to now. And I forgot exactly what your question was. Was it about identity or what was
It
it
was
specifically?
it's specifically about what you just described. So your whole
Okay,
journey,
good.
taking control of your mind with these skills and seeing yourself evolve in real time. Because that's what's most exciting. Whoever's listening to this, it's not only about getting more done and therefore making more money. It's really about unlocking the ability to reinvent yourself as many times as you need based on neuroscience, based on neuroplasticity, based on how the brain actually works with a proven roadmap and system that if you follow it, it's going to help you do years worth of progress in just a few months. And you are the perfect example of this because you didn't have any business experience, because you didn't have the right qualities in terms of soft skills, like in terms of communication abilities and selling abilities and
I had to
marketing
learn
abilities.
everything. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
From
everything.
scratch.
Yeah. Actually, I did the math and I've done about 500 ring fence sessions since I joined Self Mastered, and that is around 750 hours. And when you think about that, that's really not that long that's not a lot of time,
No.
especially when I started at absolutely zero. Like I like calling myself patient zero in Self-Mastered because I really did start at zero. I had absolutely no soft skills, no hard skills, nothing. Like I said, it was hard for me to even get on a call and talk to people, right? Not even a sales call, just talking to people I know, like Leon, right?
Mhm.
So seeing myself week by week. And by the way, I have the dashboard, so I'm able to, if I'm ever having some sort of resistance or the brain is telling me that I'm like, what I'm doing is dangerous or I'm having self-doubt, I have the dashboard to like look at where I came from because it's all there, right? How many people have that? Every single day, every single week, every single month for the past 7 months, I was able to see each week get better and better and better, right? And I've also logged every single achievement that I've accomplished all the way up to now with the business, right? So I have the soft skills, I have the hard skills. We're able to fulfill, I'm able to delegate and hire, right? All in 7 months from zero, which I think is pretty substantial.
It is very substantial. There's people that never get to, I don't know what's your revenue level, but just say, let's say 18K a month because of this contract, probably more, doesn't matter. Very few people get to 18K a month, bootstrapped in 7 months, having to learn everything from scratch, no prior business experience,
No social
work,
skills.
no social skills, not young. I mean, you're young, obviously, right? But you're not 18 when you pick things very quickly, right? You're 27,
Yeah,
right? 27,
I'm
28,
25. Yeah.
25. Okay, well, okay. Then you're younger than I thought, but still,
But
it's
you're right where it's kind of like because one of my insecurities is like, oh, I'm not 18 anymore. Like my brain can't change. I'm already who I am, right? But that's just absolutely not true, right?
not true.
I started this basically turning 25 and I'm 25, turning 26 soon. So scientifically, should be harder for me, in terms of neuroplasticity, um, to make this much change, but I was still able to do it because I had all the tools and I had all of the feedback loops in order to reinforce that behavior every single day. And let me tell you, like now we're booking calls pretty consistently. Like this week, I've had calls every single day. I was at a point where I had zero calls in 2 months, 2 months of no calls, doing outreach every single day. And the only reason I was able to get through that is because of Self-Mastered and the protocols that I was using. Because if I was on my own, I would not be able to do that, right? And I'm sure that resonates with a lot of people because imagine reaching out to people and getting rejected every single day and getting like no responses, no nothing, and just thinking that, obviously the thoughts are going to come like, oh, like it's because of me. There's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with like, oh, this wasn't meant for me or this doesn't work or whatever. But no, I wasn't able, like I didn't have to deal with that because I was able to rewire that in real time anytime that something came up, right? I had the tools to do that. And yeah, and I mean, I was at a point where I had literally like $500 in my bank account. And because I was able to expand my mental capacity to a point where I just kept going and I didn't stop and I didn't give up. And that's what's got me to where we are now.
Congratulations, man. Fantastic work. And what's most exciting is that this capacity you've had, you've learned, you've trained to deal with stresses, to manage risk and uncertainty is never going away. So you are literally
Hmm.
compounding this for the rest of your life. So the more you use the methodology, the more you leverage the skills, the more you use the dashboard, the more proof you get that you are indeed the kind of guy who dares to imagine who he wants to be and actually go chase it and become it, the faster you're going to get there. And that is, as your mentor, is extremely exciting to see, honestly. So
And
congratulations.
that's why I joined Self Mastered in the first place because yeah, there's the business side and I want to be successful, but above that, I want to master myself. I want to finally be able to rewire the old habits that I've always dealt with my whole life that were coded, in my childhood, growing up. I just knew that it didn't have to be this way. I didn't know how to change it because I've tried everything. And I joined Self Mastered with that intention, and that's what Self Mastered was able to do for me. And I think that's more important than the money side or the business side. It's the ability, first of all, the achievement of changing yourself, and also the ability to continue changing yourself however you see fit, right? It's like now I have the the cheat code, because everything feels like a game too now. When you're able to track everything, it becomes like a video game. I used to be addicted to
Yes.
video games. I
Hmm.
used to be addicted. And the reason I was addicted is because it's consistent. You immediately see your progress. And most people would think like, oh, you can only do that in a video game. And that's why video games are so great, right? Because it's like a form of escapism where you're able to level up and see yourself um, basically get better and better every time you try. But self-mastered allows that in real life, where it applies the same things that you like in video games or that I was addicted to in video games, but now you're doing it for your life. You're doing it for, the people that you care about. You're doing it for the clients that you work with, right? So now you're helping yourself get to a better place in life, but you're also helping the people around you. And I think that's amazing, honestly.
That was literally exactly what I wanted to achieve 6 years ago when I started this. That was the whole purpose of it. And it's been a long journey of building this up. And the fact that you were saying to me what I intended in the beginning means a lot. And of course, you've had the results to prove it, which is even more exciting. So, man,
Yeah,
congratulations for everything you've achieved in these past 6, 7 months. Is really impressive. But we're only getting started. So,
exactly.
as a final question, who do you think this is for? Because to be part of Selfmaster, you need is a specific way of looking at life, looking at yourself. Who do you think Selfmaster is for?
I think self-mastered is for anyone who is frustrated with themselves and isn't able to, who knows that they themselves, like you yourself, are unable to change with your current, and it's not your fault, right? You might think it's your fault, but it's not your fault. It's just because you don't have the right information, you don't have the right mentorship, and you don't have the right tools. Because honestly, after joining Self Mastered, I really understood how impossible it is. If you have anxiety, if you have these things that have been encoded at birth or through your childhood, it's a lot of things. It's genetics, it's thing like your environment where you didn't have any sort of control over it. It's not like you chose to be anxious. It's not like you chose to be afraid of outreach. It's not like you chose to be afraid of getting on a call with someone or with pitching a price or whatever it is that you're trying to do. I think that this is I think self-mastered is perfect for any person who owns a business or runs a business, but I also feel like it's good for really anyone who wants to really see the highest potential of themselves and achieve that within, you know, half a year versus 10 years. So if you want to level up and not take your entire life to do it, that's the type of person that self-mastered is for.
I appreciate you. Great. I couldn't have said anything better than that. Dylan, absolute pleasure being your mentor. Let's now go plan the next few months together. Thank you very much for jumping in and sharing your experience.
Of course.
Have
Thanks,
a good
Leon.
day. Thank you. Bye.